The hospital room was quiet under the bright daytime light. Machines hummed softly as time moved slowly forward. A young girl lay still fighting a battle no child should face. Cancer had taken much from her strength, from her hair, from her breath. But it could not take her hope. She had one wish left. Not toys, not money, not miracles. She wanted to meet her hero, Steven Seagal. Doctors stood outside the room speaking in low voices. They did not promise much time. They warned the family to prepare. Every second mattered now. The girl held on to a small photo. It showed Steven Seagal standing strong, fearless, calm. She watched his movies again and again. They gave her courage when pain tried to win. They gave her something to believe in. Her mother brushed her hair gently. Her father held her hand, pretending to be strong. The nurse asked softly if there was anything else she needed. The girl smiled weakly and repeated her wish. "I just want to see him once." The room fell silent. Everyone knew how impossible it sounded. Heroes lived far away. Heroes did not walk hospital halls. Heroes did not answer wishes like this. Or so they thought. No one told the girl what was happening next. No one prepared the staff. No cameras were set. No announcements were made. Somewhere far away, Steven Seagal heard her story. He did not ask for details. He did not ask for permission. He did not ask for publicity. He only asked one question. Where is she? Back in the hospital, the sunlight shifted across the floor. Time continued to slip away. The girl closed her eyes for a moment, still holding on to hope. Then something happened. Something no doctor expected. Something no family imagined. Something that would change the meaning of that day forever. Because when true heroes move, they do not make noise. They change lives. And what Steven Seagal did next turned a hospital hallway into a place of tears. Turned silence into disbelief. Turned a final wish into a moment that would never be forgotten. Not a single eye stayed dry. It was a bright daytime afternoon at the Children's Hospital. Sunlight poured through the tall windows and stretched across the white hallway floors. Outside, the world moved normally. Cars passed. People laughed. Life continued. Inside, the hospital, time felt different. Slower. Heavier. The air carried a quiet sadness that could not be seen. Only felt. In one small room at the end of the hall, the girl lay quietly on her bed. Thin arms resting above the blanket. Her breathing slow but steady. Beside her hand was a small worn action figure. Its paint faded from being held so often. It was Steven Seagal. She kept it close like armor. Like a shield against fear. Her mother sat beside the bed. Eyes tired. Face calm but breaking inside. She gently adjusted the blanket and brushed her daughter's hair. What little hair remained. In a soft voice, barely above a whisper, she spoke to the nurse. She watches his movies whenever she feels weak. She says they make her feel brave. She says he never gives up. The nurse nodded slowly. She had heard many wishes before. Trips, toys, celebrities, miracles. But this one felt different. The girl opened her eyes and smiled faintly. She looked at her action figure and then at her mother. He always protects people, she said. He never lets bad guys win. The words cut deeper than any diagnosis. The nurse pulled the curtain slightly and leaned closer. Her voice gentle and careful. Her wish is simple, she said. But it may be impossible. No one argued. No one needed to. Celebrities lived far away. Schedules were full. Security was tight. Hospitals were not movie sets. Still the mother nodded politely. She did not want promises. She only wanted her daughter to feel heard. Down the hallway, doctors passed with charts in hand. Their expressions serious. Their steps quick. They stopped briefly outside the room. One doctor glanced through the window. He sighed softly. They had done all they could medically. Now all that remained was comfort. And time. Inside the room, the girl shifted slightly. The sunlight touched her face. She looked peaceful for a moment. Her father stood near the window. Hands clenched. Trying not to show fear. Trying not to break. He watched the hallway as if waiting for something, even though he knew nothing was coming. The nurse returned with fresh water. She smiled kindly at the girl. "You have good taste in heroes," she said. The girl smiled back. "He is strong. But he is kind too." Those words stayed in the room. Outside, nurses whispered. Parents walked past holding balloons and flowers. Laughter echoed from a different wing. But in this room hope felt fragile, like glass. Still it existed. Because sometimes wishes are not about miracles. They are about moments. About feeling seen. About feeling less alone. And in that bright daytime hospital hallway, with sunlight on the floor and silence in the room, a simple wish quietly waited, unaware that somewhere far away, someone had already heard it. Before we continue, comment where you are watching from. And send strength to every child fighting bravely. Folded hands. The wish did not travel through news channels. It did not trend online. It did not reach gossip pages. It moved quietly, from a nurse to a coordinator, from a coordinator to someone who knew someone, until it reached Steven Seagal. There were no cameras involved, no media calls, no announcements, no contracts, no conditions, just a message, a child, a hospital, a simple wish. Steven read the message slowly. He did not ask how serious the illness was. He did not ask how old the girl was. He did not ask what he would gain. He stood up from where he was sitting, cleared his entire schedule, and said only one thing. "Where is she?" People around him were surprised. They expected questions. They expected delays. They expected excuses. None came. Travel plans were changed. Meetings were cancelled. Everything else became unimportant. Before leaving, he made one request. His voice calm but firm. "Do not tell her I am coming." He did not want anticipation. He did not want pressure. He did not want false hope. He wanted the moment to be real. The hospital was informed quietly. No posters were placed. No staff were warned loudly. Only a few people were told. They were instructed to keep it silent. That afternoon, during visiting hours, while families walked in and out, while nurses checked vitals, while doctors reviewed charts, a man walked through the front entrance. No crowd followed him. No phones were raised. No whispers spread. He wore simple clothes. Dark jeans. A plain jacket. No sunglasses. No jewelry. He did not look like a movie star. He looked like someone on an ordinary visit. He stopped briefly at the front desk, spoke softly, gave a name. The receptionist froze for a moment, then nodded silently. He walked down the hallway slowly, reading the room numbers, listening to the quiet sounds of the hospital. Beeping machines, soft footsteps, murmured voices. Each step brought him closer, not to a fan, not to fame, but to a child who believed in him. Outside the room he stopped, took a deep breath. Not as an actor, not as a celebrity, but as a human being. Inside the room the girl was resting. Her mother sat beside her, holding her hand. Her father stared out the window. They had no idea. The nurse passed by and paused. She looked at Steven. Her eyes widened. He gave a gentle nod. A silent request. She understood. The hallway remained calm. No one announced his arrival. No one called attention. He waited patiently, watching the sunlight shift across the floor. For the right moment. Because some moments are too important to rush. And some heroes do not arrive loudly. They arrive quietly. When they are needed most, the door opened slowly, so softly that no one noticed at first. The girl was awake, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, listening to the quiet rhythm of the machine beside her. Then she sensed movement. She turned her head slightly, expecting to see a nurse, or her mother returning with water. Instead she froze. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. Her body went still. Standing in the doorway was the face she knew so well. The face she had watched on a small screen during long, painful nights. The face that gave her courage when fear felt stronger than hope. Her hero stood right in front of her. For a moment she thought she was dreaming. Her mind tried to protect her from disappointment. She blinked once. Then again. He was still there. Tears filled her eyes instantly. They rolled down her cheeks without control. Her hands trembled. Her lips parted, barely able to form words. Steven. It came out as a whisper. Soft, uncertain, but full of emotion. Her mother turned quickly. Confused at first. Then she saw him. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her knees weakened. She had to hold the chair to stay standing. Her father turned from the window and stopped breathing for a second. The room changed. The air felt different, heavier, yet warmer. Steven did not speak right away. He did not smile for the room. He did not pose. He stepped forward slowly, lowered himself to her level, and knelt beside her bed. He reached out gently, careful not to disturb the tubes, and took her hand in his. His grip was warm, steady, reassuring. She looked at their hands, then back at his face. More tears fell, but now they carried relief, not fear. "I came to see you," he said softly. The girl tried to speak. Words rushed through her mind, but her voice shook. She told him about her favorite movie, her favorite scene, how she watched it when she felt weak. She told him she pretended to be brave like him, even when she was scared. Steven listened. He did not interrupt. He did not look at the clock. He did not glance at anyone else. His full attention stayed with her. He nodded, smiled gently, and let her finish every thought. Her breathing slowed. Her shoulders relaxed. For the first time that day, she looked peaceful. Her parents watched silently, tears falling freely now. They had never seen their daughter this calm. A nurse stood quietly at the door, hands folded, eyes wet. The machines continued their steady rhythm, but the room felt alive. Steven leaned closer and spoke quietly, not as a star, not as a hero, but as a friend. "You are stronger than you know." The girl squeezed his hand, as if afraid he might disappear, as if this moment was too precious. And in that small hospital room, time seemed to pause. Pain faded, fear stepped back, and love filled the space. No one spoke loudly. No one moved quickly, because everyone understood. This was not just a visit. It was a moment that would live forever. Steven did not leave after a few minutes. He did not check his phone. He did not look toward the door. He stayed. Minutes turned into hours. Time outside the room no longer mattered. He sat beside her bed, sometimes talking, sometimes listening, sometimes just being there. He joked gently, not loudly, not to perform. He made her laugh in short bursts, the kind of laughter that surprised even her, the kind that lifted pain for a moment. He told her small stories, stories from his childhood, stories about learning discipline, stories about falling down and getting back up. She listened carefully, eyes wide, as if every word was a treasure. He asked her questions too. What she liked, what made her happy, what made her afraid. And when she spoke, he listened like nothing else in the world existed. At one point he reached into his jacket. Slowly, carefully, he pulled out a small personal gift. Not expensive, not flashy, something meaningful, something chosen. He placed it gently in her hand. "This is yours," he said, "to remind you how strong you are." She held it close to her chest, as if it carried magic. Then he leaned in slightly, his voice calm, steady, certain. "You are the strongest warrior I know." The words hit the room like a wave. The girl smiled through tears. Her grip tightened around his hand. Her breathing deepened. Her parents could no longer hold back. Her mother turned away, shoulders shaking. Her father wiped his eyes silently. Doctors paused their rounds outside the door. Nurses stood still, hands over their mouths. No one spoke. No one moved. They cried silently, not from sadness, but from something deeper. Hope, humanity, love. This was not a celebrity visit. This was not a performance. It was presence. The machines continued their soft rhythm. The sunlight shifted across the walls. Hours passed unnoticed. Steven stayed until she grew tired, until her eyes became heavy. He adjusted her blanket. Carefully, gently. He promised to come again. Not loudly, not dramatically, just honestly. Before leaving, he placed his hand on her head and smiled. "You keep fighting." She nodded, holding her gift, holding his words. As he stood to leave, every person in that room understood. They had witnessed something rare, something pure, a moment that did not need cameras, a moment that did not need headlines, just a moment that mattered. Should moments like this be shared with the world? Type yes or no in the comments. Red heart. Steven stood quietly and prepared to leave. There were no speeches, no announcements, no goodbyes meant for an audience. He gave one last gentle look, one last reassuring nod, and walked out of the room. No cameras followed. No reporters waited. No posts were made. He moved down the hallway the same way he arrived. Calm, silent, unnoticed. Inside the room something had changed. The girl lay back against her pillow, still holding the gift, still holding the memory. A soft smile rested on her face, and it did not fade. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. Machines continued their steady rhythm. But the smile remained. Her mother noticed first, then her father. They exchanged a look, the kind that needed no words. For the rest of the day, the girl smiled. She smiled when the nurse checked her vitals. She smiled when the sunlight moved across the wall. She smiled even when the pain returned. It was not a loud smile. It was peaceful. The kind of smile that comes from feeling safe, from feeling seen. A nurse paused while adjusting the four. She looked at the girl carefully, then stepped back. "We have never seen her this happy," she said softly. Those words carried weight. This was a child who had endured endless procedures, countless needles, long nights of fear, and yet in this moment, she was calm. Hope filled the room. Not the kind of hope that promises miracles, not the kind that denies reality, but the kind that brings comfort, the kind that eases fear, the kind that gives strength. Doctors noticed the change too. They spoke quietly in the hallway, nodding as they passed. Something intangible had shifted. The room felt lighter, the air warmer. The girl talked more. She asked questions. She told her parents about every word Steven had said. She repeated his promise, over and over. "You are the strongest warrior I know." She held on to those words like armor. Her parents watched in silence, both grateful, both broken. They knew time was fragile. They knew nothing had changed medically, but everything had changed emotionally. That night, as the lights dimmed, the girl finally fell asleep peacefully. No tears, no fear, just rest. The nurse returned quietly, pulled the curtain slightly, and smiled. Sometimes medicine is not found in a bottle. Sometimes healing comes in moments, even if only for a moment. And in that small hospital room, hope stayed, long after the footsteps in the hallway faded, long after the door closed. Hope remained. Heroes are not defined by strength. They are defined by presence. Strength can be loud. Strength can be seen. Strength can impress. But presence heals. A hero does not always arrive to fight. Sometimes a hero arrives to sit, to listen, to stay. A small act can become a lifetime memory, especially for someone fighting silently. That hospital room did not change because of fame. It changed because of care. No superpower was used. No miracle was promised. Only time. only attention, only heart. For a child battling illness, moments matter more than outcomes. Feeling seen, feeling valued, feeling loved. Those feelings last longer than pain. The girl may forget details, but she will never forget how she felt. She felt brave. She felt strong. She felt important. And that is what heroes give. Not answers, not guarantees, but dignity. Every day children fight battles we cannot see. In quiet rooms, behind brave smiles. They do not ask for much. Sometimes they only ask to be noticed. This story is not about a celebrity. It is about humanity. It reminds us that kindness has weight, that presence has power. You do not need fame to be a hero. You only need compassion. A visit, a word, a moment can change everything. If this story touched you, let it remind you to be gentle, to be patient, to be present, because somewhere right now, someone is fighting silently, and your kindness could be their strength-type prayer for every child battling illness. And tell me where you are watching from. Your words matter more than you think. Folded hands.